guys, welcome back to Books and Beats. I was going to try and record without my earphones, but clearly there is something happening in the neighborhood, so I'm gonna have to put on the earphones because I think that's actually going to sound better. Today we are going to be talking about A Way of Being Free by Ben Okri. The copy that I have is 108 pages long. It was originally published in 1997, but this edition that I have is from 2014. And I tried to find this on Audible, but they don't have a version, an audiobook version of it. I'm going to read the blurb, very short blurb. All I wanted to do, writes Ben Okri, in his new introduction to this edition, was to remind myself at all times to just sing my song, to just sing it through all the difficulties and silences. Others might find through this volume a way to sing their own song. And that's all that's written in here in terms of a blurb. Next up, I'm going to be talking about the actual book. As usual, I have explained this multiple times. I live in New York City and the neighborhood is alive and well. So if you hear sounds from the neighbors, from up, down, and the sides or above in this case, please bear with me. All right, I've got my earphones on, but because I've got a wig going, it might make a scratchy sound. I'll do my best to keep that from happening, but if it does happen, please bear with me. All right. So this book is actually a collection of essays and poetry, I would say. And I remember the first time that I came into contact with this book was that I was living in South Africa still. That's where I'm from, for those of you who don't know. And I was looking for books by African authors. And this was a very long time ago, like maybe 2014 or 2015. And I went into an exclusive books. I can't remember where the exclusive books was. It was either at Cavendish Square in Cape Town or I was in Bloemfontein. One of those two. I don't know where I was. But I went into the exclusive books and I was looking for books by African authors. Like I was ready to buy 3 or 4 books. And I was horrified to find that a lot of the books that were there were not by Black writers. And there was a big, I would say, gap in the market. And I still think that it exists, a gap in the market for African authors, African writing, African books. I do think that it's still better. It's much better now. But in any case, I was looking for those kinds of books. And one of the books that I found was a book by Ben Okri, which was this one. And I hadn't read any of his books before. So I was like, okay, let me give this a try. And I know that he's written Famished Road and a lot of other books. I mean, there's over 10, I think, other books that he's written. But I felt like this was a very short read, short book. And it was a perfect introduction for me. And to be honest, after reading this book, I wondered if I could read any of his other books because I enjoyed this book so much. I enjoyed it so much that in a sense, I don't want to have any other memories of reading Ben Okri because this book touched me so deeply. And in a way, it's kind of like a little manifesto, I think, for writers and for authors. It's hard to explain what this book does and its impact on you. I would say that some would say that it's Ben Okri sharing his intellectual life, but I think it's him sharing some of his spirituality, because it's definitely like soul to soul. It feels like it came straight from his soul into this book, into my soul. Like there is nothing overly intellectual about it for me. And it definitely did nourish my soul. And I saw a lot of people saying that online. So it felt good to hear that others also had a similar experience. There's a lot of stories, a lot of chapters in here that I categorized based on previous essays that he's written and poetry that he's written. And I can see, let me see here if there's a list. Okay, there isn't a list. I thought I saw a list somewhere. Oh yeah, there is. Okay, so there's quite a few here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 12 chapters, 12 stories / poems. But my favorite was The Human Race is Not Yet Free, which is on page 40 of this book, and The Joys of Storytelling, which is The Joys of Storytelling 2. There's 2 versions of, 3. There's 3 Joys of Storytelling, 1, 2, and 3. But in the second one, that's where I felt like, yeah, you know what, this is where the juicy stuff is. But honestly, the entire book is made up of so many juicy nuggets. And I don't know if you can see here, what I like about this version, or this story, if I can call it that, or this chapter, is that it's broken down into small little bite-sized chunks. And in a way, it felt like, imagine you had an older uncle that was giving you snippets of advice, or, you know, nuggets of truth, or things that they would say maybe at a braai, and then maybe at a baptism, and then randomly on a road trip, or in a text message, in a voice note. It felt like it's snippets of nuggets of truth, serum, you know, that for me have been very powerful. So I'll read a few that stood up to me, right? The worst realities of our age are manufactured realities. It is therefore our task as creative participants in the universe to redream our world. The fact of possessing imagination means that everything can be redreamed. Each reality can have its alternative possibilities. Human beings are blessed with the necessity of transformation. Number 2, writers are the dream mechanisms of the human race. Narrative affects us the ways dreams affect us. They share the same insubstantiality. They both have the hidden capacity to alter reality. Dreams may be freer because they are not composed of words, but when narrative fiction has entered us, it no longer exists as words either. And this is really what I feel like encapsulates the experience of reading this book. It feels like the feeling you're left with is a similar feeling that you're left with after dreaming, where you, in the dream, you don't also necessarily have the words or visuals to express, but you wake up feeling a certain energy or essence or knowing. And I feel like this book left me feeling satisfied in that way. There is no single way of interpreting dreams that is acceptable to all human beings. Writers create one book which becomes 100 different books in the minds of those that read it. To some, this one book is an object of light, a revelation, an act of liberation. To others, the same book is a monster. And this speaks to the same, I think in this chapter, he's trying to, or he is successfully drawing the similarities between dreaming and writing. The life of dreams and the life of narrative fiction, or written word, in essence. And he does a really good job of drawing the parallels in a way that is hard to forget once you have read this. And I would say that this book feels also like an ode to writers, an ode to storytellers, something, nourishment for the road, snacks for the road, because it can be quite a tough undertaking. And then there's also a lot of themes talking about authenticity and really just living your truth. There's one here that says, we live inside the dreams of others. We might be imprisoned in them. And it's true. How many people can say that they're living the life that they want to live? I think a lot of people are living someone else's dream, or have taken on board a dream or dreams that exist in the world and the public imagination, and taken them on board as their own. And there's a lot of things like that. I feel like there's no way that I can read enough of this that will satisfy that. But I also wanted to read a little bit of the joys of storytelling too. When I write of storytelling, I use the word joys with a certain touch of irony. I know as well as anyone else how dangerous stories are, and how dangerous for the storyteller they can be. Colleagues have been jailed, tortured, murdered, poisoned, brutalized, hounded into exile, excommunicated, excoriated, and driven mad because of the joys of storytelling. Colleagues have died homeless in the streets, unloved, unread, misunderstood, shunned, thought mad, ostracized, and have driven themselves into the dark spaces of the imagination from which there is no return, in pursuit of the joys of storytelling. Art is a harsh goddess. Her gifts are ambiguous. On her altars, many have perished. I can think of one, already an icon of free speech, who is a visible prisoner of our age, under a death sentence, a death in waiting, because of the ironic joys. Storytelling practiced with full consciousness and an oxygenated sense of responsibility is one of the most dangerous and liberating of human activities. Life is dangerous. It is not surprising that stories are also sometimes dangerous. A mutant star, red hot in its brief ascendancy, sometimes rules over the fates of true storytellers. But another star, golden in its universal glow, confers great hidden benedictions and blessings on practitioners and readers alike. Regardless of the ambiguous dark side, artists always feel the craftsman's cool ecstasy and the dreamer's serene joy when creating. And the reader always feels the joys and the dangers when immersing. In storytelling, there is always transgression. And in all art, without transgression, without the red boundary, there is no danger, no risk, no frisson, no experiment, no discovery, and no creativity. Without extending some hidden or visible frontier of the possible, without disturbing something of the incomplete order of things, there is no challenge and no pleasure, and certainly no joy. All true artists suspect that if the world really knew what they were doing, they would be punished, quietly or dramatically. Storytellers are reorganizers of accepted reality, dreamers of alternative histories, disturbers of deceitful sleep. Drink. I just want to drink it. Anyway, I highly recommend this book. It is a book that I would say is easy to pick up, easy to read, but is very impactful. If you are a writer, if you're an author, if you're a creator, if you're a storyteller, if you're in that realm and you're looking for a book that you can turn to for inspiration, for soul nourishment, for reminders of what I think we all have an inkling of, this is the book for you. It's short. You can also treat it as something that you go to for specific needs. So for instance, I can imagine this being a book that if you're in the middle of writing a book or a poetry anthology or etc., or if you're an editor, that you come to this place to remind yourself why you do what you do. That long ramble for a 108-page book. Anyway, next up we have the book Community Spotlight. Okay, you can probably tell from the vibe that I have today, specifically this robe. This is my rich auntie robe. Whenever I wear this, I am channeling and drawing towards me the rich auntie, okay, that is part of my future. I'm telling you, whenever I wear this robe, and even when I bought it, I was like, you know what, when I'm in that rich auntie energy, this is the robe that I wear. And so in true alignment with that, I found a podcast / book club called the Rich Aunties Club. And I actually discovered it on Instagram and then went on to find their website. So the Rich Aunties Club began amidst a key about the reality that we are the rich aunties we have always aspired to be. You know, that aunt that pulls up to the family function fresh off her latest vacation, wearing a fur coat and designer boots, handing out money like it's candy. This is a podcast for those that enjoy luxury and self-care in the form of a glass of wine with a good book. This is space for our people who appreciate making the most out of life. Opulence is a mindset. Oh, and I'm going to share some snapshots of the website. When I actually went on the website for the first time, I literally remarked, I was like, yes, I feel that rich auntie energy. And it's run by three people: Bria Brown, who's an artist and an entrepreneur, Essence Rogers, who's 27, a horror film buff and a self-care enthusiast, Heaven Jones, who's a multimedia producer and holistic wellness advocate. And how they do this is that they have so far 3 episodes where they focus on different topics. So the first episode they had was titled You're Absolutely Worth It, where they looked at Valera Wilson's debut self-help book, and they also pair it with wine. So every episode that they have a podcast on, they have a book and a wine that they pair it with, and there's also links on their website where you can actually buy the book or the wine. So the second book that they did was The Vanishing Half, and they have paired a wine with that. And then they also did, give me one second, An American Marriage by Tayari Jones. So absolutely luxurious and beautiful. And I think one thing that I really enjoy about this is that it's a podcast, it's a book recommendation, it's a book club, it's listening to 3 women speaking. It's also all about self-care and appreciating yourself and affirming yourself. It's also a podcast. It's also a book club. It's just so many things wrapped up in one. And I really, really just love the aesthetic. And I also love the idea of separating this idea, and I don't think I don't think it's still a predominant idea, but that if you read, you're a nerd, and that you're not well-traveled or can't be luxurious. And to me, buying books is also a form of taking care of myself and exercising self-care and luxury, to be frank. Like, I get so much joy looking at my bookshelf. Anyway, the Rich Aunties Club, I'll leave all their details at the bottom. Okay, the mixtape of the week today is my beloved, again, Atiya Khan, who is also known as El Corazon. And today's playlist mixtape comes from Worldwide FM. You can also find it on Mixcloud. And it is titled Future Nostalgia, Atiya Khan Presents Sonic Queens. And this is actually from the 23rd of February in 2021, so still from this year. South African music journalist, DJ and researcher Atiya Khan El Corazon digs out gems past and present. The show is an extension of the music collective she co-founded in Cape Town called Future Nostalgia, which has hosted listening sessions in the city for the past 8 years. For this week's show, Atiya digs into her record collection to play 2 hours of some of her favorite women in music throughout history, focusing particularly on artists who have been a big influence in her life, traveling around the world through the powerful voices from Odetta to Fairuz, Sister Nancy to Satima Bia, Benjamin on wax. In many cases, some of these artists have not even been credited properly on records. This mix comes in celebration of International Women's Day coming up in March, though every day is Women's Day, and that's why I'm suggesting this now. But honestly, the reason why I chose this mix is because it is true luxury, true self-care. It is 2 hours long, okay? She put together this mix. It's a 2 hour long meander. Okay, beautiful meander. So I definitely think it is so fitting for that rich auntie, self-care, luxury, taking care of the spirit, taking care of the self energy that I'm feeling very much in this episode. And I think it's a perfect pairing with this because this is a very short read, coupled with such a long, luxurious listen. So that's my recommendation for this week. Okay, time for reflections. Interesting that now that it's time for reflections, they stopped their music. Fabulous. I'm done now recording, so that's not very helpful. But anyway, I'm feeling good. You know, I had such a beautiful weekend. On Friday, I went to a Joji concert. I left a little story time about that on my Instagram. You trying to impress, which is true. The person I'm trying to impress is with me.
And you are an auntie.
I am an auntie. I am an auntie. Anyway, okay, we're getting sidetracked here. So fine, we get there, and if you want to listen to it, in fact, wearing the same robe. And then, so that was Friday night. Saturday was chill out, like literally sit in bed, relax after working. I work on Saturdays as well, you know, hashtag millennial, hashtag New Yorker. And then Sunday, I went to go see my good friend Susie Bell, who's actually moving. And so I needed to see her before she left the city. And it was such a beautiful, again, luxurious day. We went to this restaurant called Maman, which was interesting, on the Upper West Side, which was interesting because I had seen the cookies that they sell there, because some people say it's the best chocolate chip cookie in New York City. And I bookmarked it during the pandemic. Unbeknownst to me, she booked us there and she got this beautiful table by the window. We had such a good time. And then after that, we went to Central Park to take a nice long walk. And the entire time we were critiquing different people's jackets. Like, okay, yeah, that's the kind of jacket you need to get if you're in this kind of mood. And oh my gosh, how do people look stylish and warm at the same time? I haven't gotten it right yet. Today was the first time I started feeling like, oh, okay, maybe I don't look so bad, you know, in my pink coat and my, you know, sweater. I'm learning to use the right words. But yeah, beautiful, luxurious weekend. I will say that I do feel quite exhausted, and I can see it coming up in the way that I'm stumbling over my words. I mean, I stumble over words quite a bit in general, but today I feel like I was stumbling on another level, like not reading properly, not fully in control of my tongue. So I know it's time to rest, and next week I'm taking an entire week off. It's also Thanksgiving, so I'm tacking onto the existing holiday, and I'm looking forward to just having a full week of rest. Just resting, is so important. So yeah, I feel like the theme for this whole episode today was self-care, self-love, luxury. Okay, well, my version of luxury, my little $30 robe and cheap wig. But in any case, I hope you are all doing fantastic. I hope you're thriving. I hope you're taking care of yourselves and treating yourselves and rethinking what it means to dream and what it means to live within your dreams. Because in some ways, I do feel like a lot of us are living within our dreams, in the sense that we are living or having things that we once dreamt we wished we had, right? For me, definitely living in New York is a literal dream. I'll tell you about that one day. I literally dreamed New York for years and years, and I'm now living here. I'm rambling now, so I'm going to go. Peace. I hope you have a good day further.